Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Fox98 here, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the F1 debate for you guys today here on the channel. Today, we're going to be quickly reviewing the F1 2020 Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying session that has just occurred. Now, before I get into this video, if you have not yet watched the Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying, as you're watching this video, I do intend on releasing this video later this evening, so it gives you a lot of time to catch up on qualifying session. Please be sure to watch qualifying before you come ahead and watch this, and then you can come back to this one, and then it'll all be good. But if you end up enjoying today's video, drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well, as we try and push our way towards 20,000 subscribers. And Mercedes-Benz, I mean, I'm wearing the top as per usual. See you later, guys. That was an absolute walkover from Mercedes-Benz, and the pace that they've shown today is quite frankly very, very scary. It's so ridiculously frightening how quick that car is compared to just all of the other cars in general. They were absolutely rapid in terms of their performance, and we'll get onto them very, very soon. But yeah, it was quite scary to see that. And I'm going to get up the qualifying session from last year. Of course, it was different conditions. Of course, it was much, much warmer last year than it was in compared to obviously this year. But they were in a completely new league. Yeah, so the qualifying from last year, Verstappen set pole position, obviously, with a 1 minute 14.5. And today, Lewis Hamilton setting a 113.4. And if you look at Verstappen, he set a 114.8. He actually lost 0.3 on his qualifying compared to what he did last year. Looking at the Ferraris, though, the Ferraris, funnily enough, have actually, I think, made some gains. They both set a 1 minute 15.0 in their qualifying sessions, and they set a 14.7 and a 14.8. So they gained 0.2 compared to last year. Of course, Racing Point were miles quicker than they were last year. I wonder why that is. Something confusing about that. They gained 3 seconds in performance, which is ridiculous. But let's get straight down to business then. We'll get on with Q1 then and talk about that. So Q1 was actually quite a fascinating session. For me, one of the most, or probably one of the most interesting Q1 sessions that we've had in quite some time, actually, with the track evolution being one of the biggest things, I think, about that. Of course, we saw that as soon as they went back out for their second runs, the track just evolved massively, way more than anyone else could have anticipated, and even forced like the front runners of like Mercedes and stuff to go back out again, because the lap times were just improving at such a vast rate of knots. But it's bad news, though, unfortunately, for Alfa Romeo. I think we can pretty much confirm, give or take, what event that we're going to. They're now pretty much the slowest car on the grid. I don't think it's Williams anymore. I mean, compare it to the last 2 sessions in race trim, Alfa seemed to have a little bit in hand over the Williams car. Whether that's to do with just the Williams car just not having the better race pace, whether it's working with the tyres and race trim or on heavy fuel, we don't know, of course. But the Williams car has really taken a big step in the right direction. I think, to be honest, we're looking at, a new slowest car on the grid being Alfa Romeo, which is a bit of a shame in there. And again, with Haas as well, they're not performing either. And again, I do think that a lot of it has come down to the engine clampdown. I really believe that. Say what you want. I mean, Ferrari have admitted, or Matteo Binotto has admitted, that the engine clamp has definitely hindered them in terms of overall engine performance. And they also, I remember in Abu Dhabi, I think it was, that Charles Leclerc was caught for illegal fuel flow or something like that. So some dodgy things going on in there. And obviously with that step backwards then, it really is showcasing with Alfa now by far the slowest team on the grid. Haas then second slowest, with, you say, Williams, Williams, Haas and Alfa pretty much all together now. So it's pretty much brought Williams back into play ever so slightly. It was a bad qualifying session as well for Danny Kvyat. Didn't get out of Q1 with a 1 minute 16.2. Wasn't the greatest thing of all time. I also don't have to look at my phone anymore, because on my PC screen, as per usual, I've got the qualifying classification right in front of me, so I don't have to panic about that. Pretty bad qualifying session from him, but the other bottom drivers, we kind of expected it. But what we didn't expect was the Williams team. Nicholas Latifi and George Russell both getting out of Q1, which was the first time since Monza 2018 that we saw them manage to get out of Q2 together. And very, very impressive. Really, really good. The car was working really, really nicely. And at that moment when George went P3, I think everyone's hearts just went, what? Because it was ridiculous. They were so fast compared to the likes of the other competition around them, which was very, very fascinating. But yeah, definitely in Q1 it was to do with the track evolution that was really taking its effect, and it was quite interesting to see it actually as we move on from that. Now, going in towards Q2, and we had our new shock of the week, as we like to call it, shock of the week. We should get like a shock of the week like thing, just to like put on the side, you know, it'd be kind of interesting and kind of cool. Alex Albon didn't get out Q2 in the Red Bull, qualified P13, slower than George Russell in the Williams. What's happening there? I believe he's actually trending on Twitter at the moment. I'm going to get up Twitter as well so I can have a look at what some other things have been saying. But I believe he was trending for his just awful performance in that qualifying session. Yeah, pretty much, you know, everyone literally on the same route, you know. Albon being out-qualified by Gasly in a faulty AlphaTauri. You know, George Russell out-qualifying him as well. Obviously, we know that the AlphaTauri had a problem, and obviously Gasly had a big issue with that. Whether he was able to actually use it again, whether that actually affected him on his actual lap, we obviously don't know that. It could have been, you know, just after his hot lap, but who knows? I mean, but what can you say, really? You know, Hungary was set to favour Red Bull, and everyone was saying that, and you know, even some people that I was talking to, they were saying to me that, you know, finally your beloved team of Mercedes-Benz is going to get some competition with Red Bull, and I actually didn't believe it to start with. Yeah, you can call me whatever you want, I don't really care. But, you know, with Red Bull's car just being very, very unstable, lots of spins, you know, here and there, and, you know, we saw it in Barcelona, we saw it in Austria, we saw it again this weekend. I actually just didn't think the Red Bull would... I didn't think the Red Bull would be that slow. Trust me, I didn't think it would be slower than the Racing Points and the Ferraris, but I thought that the Red Bull wouldn't be competing with Mercedes-Benz on their level. You know, Red Bull have definitely had some issues with their car. In terms, like I said, the balance just isn't there for me. You know, they continuously have got issues with that car spinning, and I guess they're trying to, you know, mitigate that, and then they've got understeer problems, they've got oversteer problems. It was a shocking session for Red Bull in general. Fantastic session, though, for Williams, with George Russell qualifying in front of Alexander Albon, and then Latifi finishing in P15. Funnily enough, actually looking at the timing screen, so in Q1, George Russell set a 1 minute 15.585. In Q2, he set a 1 minute 16.698. Now, if he'd actually gone ahead and set his 15.585, he would have actually out-qualified Daniel Ricciardo for this race. So, yeah, that's quite a fascinating one. Speaking of fascinating, moving on to Daniel Ricciardo, Renault, way off the pace. Yeah, they didn't have anything in their back pocket. They were very, very poor. Ricciardo P11, Ocon P14, and really bad session in general. Ocon didn't really hook up his laps. Again, what I actually saw was not many people improved on their Q2 lap times compared to Q1, which was fascinating to see it. If we have a look at them, so let's have a look at Gasly and the AlphaTauri. So Gasly actually improved on his Q2 lap time, but Ricciardo improved on his lap time by 0.2. So Russell failed to improve on his Q1 lap time. Alex Albon improved on his Q1 lap time, but it was only 7/1000ths of a second after setting a 1:15.722 and then a 1:15.715. Ocon then with a 1 minute 15.719, and then he set a 15.742. Nobody really, and Latifi was probably the biggest downer of this. He set a 1:16.1 in Q1, then he set a 1:16.5 in Q2, so he didn't get it hooked up on that lap. But interesting that they didn't really find any time, which goes to show that in Q1 they gave everything and beyond to get into Q2, and then obviously going into Q2 there was no more time to find. It was just try and match that lap time that you've got, which was interesting to see that. And of course, again, shout out to Pierre Gasly for making it through that faulty AlphaTauri. What's going to be the biggest problem is if Gasly has to take a penalty for maybe a potential power unit change. AlphaTauri did say on the radio that there was nothing that they could do to fix the problem at the time, so it was either get out there and improve or, just deal with it in whatever way that you can. So there's something that could potentially drop him a few places. What could also, another driver that could drop a few places is going to be Carlos Sainz. Sainz is under investigation for illegally blocking, I believe it was Danny Gfiat on his flying lap. So whether Sainz will take a 3-place grid penalty, who knows? If he does, he would drop then down into P12, promoting George Russell, Ricciardo and Gasly up. If Gasly has to take another penalty, who knows in there as well. But pretty fascinating stuff in Q2. We saw obviously that the Racing Points and the Mercedes cars are going to be the only teams on the grid in the top 10 to start the race on the medium compound tyres. Racing Point taking that gamble and being a new team that is able to try and start on a slower compounded tyre to help them out in the race, with it pretty much being a one-stop if you do medium to hard. It's a bit harder if you try and do soft hard. It's a bit of a stretch, but you could probably get it done. Depending on the weather, of course. It could rain, which I hope it does. I'm down for a wet race. It'd be great fun. And it would throw all the strategy out the window. But Racing Point, they were initially in trouble, actually, in Q2, as we saw. And they went out again on mediums, and I wasn't really sure why. But they made it work for them. So credit and kudos to Racing Point for making it work. And they got through into Q3, and they confirmed themselves as the second fastest team on the grid, albeit with a Mercedes-Benz car. Which is, fascinating. What was actually quite fun, if you look at the qualifying sessions then from last year, so Bottas was P2 with a 1 minute 14.590. Hamilton then set a 1 minute 14.769. If you then look at Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez in Q3, Stroll set a 1 minute 14.377 and Perez with a 1 minute 14.545, meaning that they were both faster than the 2019 Mercedes at the Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying. Again, temperature had a big part into play in that. Of course, it was really, really hot last year, which does affect the lap times of the car. F1 cars prefer it when it's slightly cooler. Pretty much just goes to show that the 2019 Mercedes is the closest competitor to the Mercedes 2019 car, which is ridiculous because Ferrari didn't beat the Mercedes from last year. Red Bull didn't beat themselves from last year. They were 1.3 seconds. No, they weren't 1.3 seconds. What am I about? They were 0.3 slower. The closest competitor to 2019's Mercedes is a 2019 Mercedes. Or Racing Point. I'm calling it a Mercedes. I don't even care. Quite strange, that one. Really, really puzzling to see that in there. But it is what it is, I guess. Racing Point have got the car behind them. So let's go into Q3 then. Obviously, we saw pretty much a battle for P3 for the entire grid, bar Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton setting pole position with a 1:13.447. I can't wait for that fastest lap. That lap to be released on the F1 YouTube channel. I cannot wait to see that car just flying through all of the corners. And it's going to be absolutely insane. And I think now what we're finally seeing is after the Hungarian Grand Prix and the Austrian Grand Prix, or the two Austrian Grand Prix that we've had, we get a really good, clear indication of what the grid is like. Mercedes, to be honest, Racing Point, I think, are genuine second fastest team on the grid. I just think that the Red Bulls are taking a step backwards this year. I just feel like it's a bit too oversteery. I don't feel like it's a stable, balanced car. Whereas the Mercedes is just fully planted. Like, you could literally fling it through a corner that has to be taken in second gear, and they'd flick it through in fifth gear with no problem, But in Q3, we saw, obviously, the two McLarens surprisingly off the pace. They were not as quick as I thought they would be. Close to Verstappen's lap time. They were a 10th shy. But not quite there, which was a little bit of a shame for McLaren. I thought they'd be a little bit closer to the pecking order. But, I mean, if you look at it, right, this is the thing. From Lance Stroll's qualifying time down to Carlos Sainz's qualifying time, it was only 0.6 of a second. Like, if you saw that from Mercedes downwards, you'd be in awe. Like, you've got 6 cars, or 6 or 7 cars, 7 cars, that are separated by 0.6 of a second. You'd be looking at that and going, That is amazing qualifying session. And then you've got Mercedes-Benz that are a full second clear out front. It's scary. You know, we've seen that Mercedes-Benz have been dominant in the turbo hybrid era. And they are been dominating now for 7 seasons. And nobody has ever protested. I think Tom97HD actually put it out. He don't even call himself 97HD no more. Tom97 put it out on his Twitter. I'm going to get it up on my screen. That, you know, Mercedes-Benz, for the entirety of their time, here it is. The Mercedes, besides DAS, has never once been reported to the FIA in the last 7 years for their dominance, that is. The Ferrari and Red Bull, when they were winning, were always at the stewards all the time. Surely something to do on that car can't be right. The smoking Mercedes engines too. Obviously, you know, what he's trying to say here is, as he said, you know, he's not hating. I just, you know, find it really hard to wrap my head around it. All 9 other teams over the last 7 years haven't been able to put a car together. That they can't all be idiots and useless. I just find the math so hard to accept. I completely agree with it. I'm sorry, Tom, if you didn't want me reading out your tweets. I don't even think you probably... I highly doubt you watch any of my content anyway, so we're all good on that front. But he's got a solid point in there. That the fact is that in 7 Formula 1 seasons, nobody has been able to outdo Mercedes-Benz. 2017 and 18 was the closest that Mercedes had come to being dethroned with the Ferrari, which was much quicker in certain aspects. But the fact is just nothing is illegal on that car. It just beggars belief as to the performance that they've really got in that. And Hamilton with a 1 minute 13 points, 1 minute 13.4. Bottas very close behind actually with a 1 minute 13.5. We saw that Hamilton was 0.3 quicker on his first flying lap. Bottas came back then and only managed to finish a 10th off. So close between those two, but we know how quick Hamilton is around Hungary, and that's his 90th career pole position, which is just incredible to hear those stats. So, I mean, fair play to him on that front. But, obviously for tomorrow, hopefully we can get some rain. Both Mercedeses are going to start on the mediums as well as the racing points. Good effort from Ferrari though. They were quicker than what I thought. Beating the Red Bulls was quite spectacular. Shocked that they couldn't actually beat the Racing Point, but, you know, that just goes to show that Racing Point genuinely have got a quicker car than what Ferrari do, which is kind of scary in some aspects. But Ferrari have said that their car is draggy and it's not that quick in a straight line, and Hungary is going to be one of their best opportunities to really take advantage of that. And they've done so, and Vettel keeps up his amazing qualifying record, actually, at Hungary, of never qualifying outside the top 5 since 2008, which is ridiculous. So, great qualifying for Sebastian Vettel. Outqualified Charles Leclerc, only by 5/100ths, but he still outqualified him. He kind of had the measure of him pretty much all weekend long. So it'll be very interesting then to see the race. But guys, let me know what you thought of the qualifying session, and obviously what are you predicting for the race itself. I think if it stays dry, it's going to be an easy Mercedes 1-2, bar any reliability problems. I'm going to go with Hamilton, Bottas, and Sergio Perez for my top 3. If it's a wet race, who knows what can happen. I can't predict a wet race. I'm going to predict the dry race and go with that. But if you guys enjoyed the video, drop it a like, subscribe if you're new to as well. And I'll see you guys for the next episode of the F1 debate on the Monday, where we'll be discussing the race in full, and I'll be able to analyse all incidents, etc. like that. But until then, guys, I will see you next time. So take care all. Peace.